Welcome to Logistics Business Conversations, where we talk with key spokespeople in the logistics industry about topical issues. Hosted by Peter MacLeod, editor of Logistics Business Magazine.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are around the world. My name is Peter MacLeod, and I welcome you all to this latest edition of Logistics Business Conversations, brought to you today in association with Moffett Automation. Now, today's episode promises to be a really good one. This is a time when availability and cost of both facilities and labour are shaping the market. So we're going to be looking at the current boom in automation with my special guest today, Sam Moffett. He's the Managing Director of Moffett Automation. Hello, Sam, and welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me, Peter. It's great to be on. I do enjoy a few lessons from yourself, so it's great to be here and it's an honour, and hopefully we can show a bit of insight to where automation is going in warehousing.
Well, that's lovely to hear. Thank you, Sam. It's great to have a fan on. We're going to, if you don't mind, kick off with your wonderful surname, which means a lot of things to people in the industry. You've got great heritage within the material handling sector. Can you just talk me through some of that, please?
Yeah, I'm a third generation Moffett, based in County Monaghan, Ireland. My grandfather was an engineer. He made the first potato harvester, self-propelled, and other saws and things. He was a true engineer back in his day. Right down to my father, who invented the Moffett Mountie, which is the red fork truck going down that goes in the back of a lorry. So you're probably seeing one right now as you're in your car listening to this. It's probably on your left or right there on the back of a lorry. So that was manufactured by him from 1986 to 1997, and then in Combi started, which is a multi-directional safety forklift company, which I would have grown up in myself. I would have become a little bit of a mature age at that stage when that was coming around, and yeah, I definitely cut my teeth in that business. And yeah, grew up in that business until 2017, until I seen the opportunity of Moffett Automation.
Was there ever at that point an opportunity to develop your ideas within the existing framework of where you were, or was it always a question of spinning it out outside of the four walls of where you were brought up?
Well, it's a great question. You know, Combi make customized material handling equipment from anything from 1 ton to 200 ton, and they make a product-based machinery, and it's all very customized, which is great, and that's the USP to the technology. But we see warehouses today getting higher and higher, and the forklift limitation on height, you know, you're kind of looking at 12, 13 meters at max. I seen the opportunity to automate a warehouse with a shuttle technology, away from what was traditionally out there, and you're getting into a solution-based long-term contract with a client. And when you've got exclusive agreements in different territories with forklift dealers, it's a very different business organization to go from a product-based to solution-based, and having exclusivity on fork truck dealers, which is very different. It's like your car dealer going into solutions, very different. So it unfortunately, in a sense, didn't meet the portfolio of the family business, but also give us an opportunity to focus on a product and really scale it rapidly. Because when you're in a family business and there's many other things going on, the distraction is daily on day-to-day business. So when I went in 2 feet at this, I had sole focus and I had the opportunity to scale this.
I always think of Christmas dinner as the AGM in a family business, which throws a different dynamic around the turkey. What would you say was the gap in the logistics or in the automation market that you saw that motivated you to go off and build up Moffett Automation?
Yeah, again, that's good. So there was the stacker crane would be the traditional automated warehouse for palletized goods. And, you know, the technology's been around a long time and it's very good. But I think what the missing factors is the scalability and the redundancy factor from the technology. And coming with a multi-directional, fully free roaming shuttle, this gives you the opportunity to scale your business as you needed. So you could put in more of these shuttles as you needed to speed up. And also if a shuttle went down, you didn't lose a level of racking or an aisleway of racking. You lost one pallet location at most. So I think it's just an evolution of time going away from something that, you know, it worked well and it still has its purpose, but getting something that is now scalable with good redundancy and gives you far more freedom to do many different logistics needs within that racking system that adds value to your process. And we believe that we're now selling more than just storage. It's now it's a system that's operating for your logistics needs, whether it's quarantining product, whatever the case may be. you can use it like a machine.
It sounds like you know your way around a warehouse. I guess you must have been in your early career. Your head must have been turning, thinking, there's inefficiencies here, or I can see limitations there. Is that sort of the pivotal moment when you thought, this is something we can do?
Yeah, look, it was ever evolving. I've been involved in logistics and material handling for a long time, and I always enjoyed going to a client's facility. And actually, I would always try to walk around the client's facility initially to understand what they're talking about and what the USPs we could bring with the technology. And I've been doing that from a very young age. So, today, whenever we go in and visit a warehouse, I always ask to see the facility, and there's maybe things that they don't realize that we could do with our technology that could complement, whether it's a QC zone where we're taking it down to do a quality control check, or we're storing a raw material for not just an end product. And there's many things that we can do. So yeah, I've been definitely around warehouses for a long time, and we're always looking to add that little bit of extra value because it definitely helps us in a return of investment calculation to the client. But we're also doing more for the client that maybe they didn't realize, and it's a win-win for both parties.
I guess ROI is very much at the core of any automation product, any automation solution. How does that story work with your customer? You obviously need to have a acute understanding of their business. How does that then play out after that?
Yeah, so we've got two things. We've got land cost, and that's density of storage, and we've got a labor cost, which is to do with the amount of automation that we supply. So we would look at it in terms of two aspects. One is labor and one is land. So if you take, for example, California, where labor is very expensive, but land is phenomenally expensive, the return for us in that region, is a lot easier than if we go to Texas, where land is a lot cheaper. So, but is the skill there for the labor? So you have to take a skill element to the labor also to operate that warehouse. So we would be tailoring the ROI depending on territory, labor cost, not just labor cost, but also the talent in that region. And then there is all other factors where if you're pharma, we would go down another sector. If it's cold storage, it might be a very high energy costs. The densification of the automation and the storage, we can actually save up to 40 to 50% on energy just because of the density. And if you think of your fridge freezer at home, the more full it is, the more efficient it is. And the more dense we have the pallets in a cold store, the more efficient we are. So we would always understand the client's challenges and try and tailor that around their needs to supply an ROI.
So are there any specific industry sectors which you could say are the sweet spot for Moffett Automation?
Yeah, this could be a lot. I would say a lot. Fundamentally, anyone moving a pallet is what we're interested in.
Right,
but,
okay, that kind of doesn't narrow it down, does it?
No, but I can narrow it down. Look, I guess if you're in food and beverage, there's a lot of things that you need to do with your product, whether it's QCing, quarantining it. If it's maturing over time, the barcodes are changing from one product to another, specifically cheese or a whiskey as it matures or whatever. There's a lot of things that we can do within that warehouse to add value than just storing that product. If you've got baby food and detergent, we can guarantee that they're stored away from each other. And there's just things like that where you're going to give a USP and it's operating more of a machine than it is just a storage system. That's one sector. Then you take pharma, you've got no human touch. We can guarantee 100% stock accuracy, high-end security for maybe a very valuable product. There's you're de-risking the chance of, it falling off a fork truck or whatever the case may be. And then if you take facilities where it's an existing warehouse and you need to double the capacity, we can go in with standard concrete floors. We can double the capacity of the existing building. So even if you're scaling within the facility and you're about to build a new warehouse to double your capacity, by buying the automation, you can actually double it within the existing building. So you are bringing other USPs determining on it, and the system is very flexible, I would say. So it doesn't need to be a perfect rectangular building. It can be in the shape of an L or have some offcuts, and we can fill those storage density areas. And just the technology leads to that.
It's interesting that you brought up the word flexible there, because sometimes when we talk about automation, people say, "Yeah, I'd love to automate. I'd love to go fully automatic, but we need the flexibility within our business." And by that, they're not necessarily talking about the shape of their building. They're talking about the volume or the proportions or the sizes of the goods. So what can you offer them when they're looking for flexibility?
Yeah, so I think that the four-way shuttle technology, now there's a little bit about the four-way just to go in it. So we actually call our shuttle a taxi. And the reason that is a shuttle can take you from A to B. A shuttle bus at an airport takes you from A to B, but a taxi can take you anywhere. Okay, so that's my analogy. We call our shuttle a taxi. So if you don't mind, I'll reference that from here on in. So
Absolutely.
the taxi can travel anywhere within the racking structure. So it can take it from an inbound up 10 levels of racking and store that pallet. So I think in the past, with other technologies, if a single unit went down, you were losing a massive percentage of your warehouse. And the fear was that how are you going to get that product down? Or if you have to service that equipment, how are you going to get your product out? With this taxi technology, which is fully free roaming, if one goes down, all the other machines have the availability to your product. Yes, you've lost a little bit of throughput, and that can be a little bit of a hindrance, but your product for your client is always available. And that's the biggest thing that in automation that we can guarantee you. That's probably where the USP or the disruptiveness is coming from this technology, is that downtime or that serviceability or all the what ifs is being answered by the technology. And that's what we really harness and give security to our client. And on the back of that, the way we've developed our software was right down to the uptime of a warehouse. So we have a lot of data analytics about how clean the warehouse is. We have a lot of software where we can actually remotely drive all the equipment to see what's going on at the machine or how it is. And the minute there's an error, it'll come back to our base. The client will also find out, but we can also offer a service to keep your warehouse at a very good uptime, if you're doing some critical movements.
So Sam, I travel around Europe a fair bit, and I travel from warehouse to warehouse, and each of them has their own, you could say, local ways. And with that also becomes interface challenges. So what can you offer the market around interface with legacy systems, and what does implementation look like?
Yeah, look, we've done quite a few now installs globally, and we're in 12 different countries. And there is different machinery directives, or there's different ways that regulations like UL certified or CE certified, and we've been cutting our teeth well into that. Going back to your original question about the interfacing, we use a REST API to interface with, and that goes back to legacy, and we've done shared database tables and things like that. And for a client who maybe has a very basic warehouse but needs automation, we actually have a standalone front end that you could operate. It's very basic, and we actually use that in 2 of our existing warehouses where they have a very standard product base, and it can work on a first in, first out basis, and it works very well. It's not even linked to a WMS, but 99% of what we do is linked to a WMS. What we've noticed in the market is a lot of WMSs is missing features for the technology, and we've actually developed a lot of that in-house to complement a WMS. So a lot of features on how you want to operate the warehouse, stage loads ahead of time, quarantining your products. We can actually do in that what we would call our WMS Lite. And that's just a bolt-on to the client's WMS to complement and save development time and getting your warehouse operational a lot quicker.
Sam, you told us you founded the company in 2017. How can we say stuff has happened since then, which don't necessarily disadvantage those working in automation? What I'm obviously referring to here is the pandemic and the boom in automation that happened then as a result of growth in e-commerce. But I would also want to ask you, how else have your customer needs or customer priorities developed over the course of the time that the company's been established?
Yeah, okay. So, we were around from 2017 and we've grown, and, the pandemic, obviously in automation, it really sparked things off. I think now we can offer our clients so much more, whether it's with lithium and insurance and stuff. We can offer a 60-minute fire retardant box to charge the machine in. And we do a lot of customization for our clients. No warehouse is the same. It doesn't matter if you have 2 bread factories. The way they want to operate is going to be so different that we will customize items of equipment to suit their requirements. And we just find that being that open company to change and the way the client wants to do it, okay, everything comes down to price, but whenever we can offer the client what they need, it's a little bit less sensitive. And it gives us an edge in the technology that we're not just a Me Too product. And that comes with our hardware and software. So it is both. We are 50-50 in manufacturing and software. I couldn't stipulate that enough. There's a lot of companies that don't have a WCS built into their shuttle technology. And for us, we can actually guarantee you a throughput through an emulation, not just a simulation, but an emulation. And the reason is because we manufacture the traffic manager and the warehouse control system. So you could have a traffic manager which is very good. But if the storage manager and how the pallets are being stored and that algorithm doesn't align with the traffic manager, who's going to guarantee the throughput? And for Moffett, when we do both and it's a handshake internally in our business, we can guarantee your client a throughput, or we can design the software if they've got certain aspects where they want priority orders or pallets to go to different areas of a building for manufacturing or whatever the case may be. We can tailor all that in-house, and then at the back end of that, we can support the client very easily because we're not using an external party when there's an issue. We've evolved that and grown with our clients and listened to our clients' needs over the years when they said, you should do this. And we haven't just said, we don't do it. We've listened, said, you know what, that could actually really help the sector or our business. And I think that's been an evolution within our business.
We'll all be at Logimat in Germany very soon. And the temptation there, and I'm as guilty as the next person, is to focus very much in on the wonderful shiny hardware. But it sounds like from what you're saying, the magic, the true magic, sits in the software behind all of that.
Yeah, look, and to be honest, there's many of a shuttle out on the industry. And to be very clear, there's a 2D and a 3D shuttle, and there's actually 2, 3, 4, and 6. Okay, there's a lot of these 2D, 3D, 4D, and 6D. Now, It's very confusing, but just to explain it, a 2D and a 4D is the same machine. It's 2-dimension or 4-direction, and a 3D or a 6D is a 3-dimension or a 6-direction. And it just means that a 3-dimension, it can go up, down, left, right, forward, back. The same as 6 directions, up, down, left, right, forward, back. And a 2-way shuttle or a 4-way shuttle is it stays on a particular level.
I can imagine our listeners just pulling up on the hard shoulder for a few minutes here, just absorbing all of this.
Yeah, very good. And what I would say is there's a lot of these machines all lift 1.5 ton or 3,000 pounds, whatever way you look at it. They all travel around the same speed, but the smarts and the technology, can 2 machines drive down one aisleway at the same time? Some can, some can't. Can they change level to level with a pallet or without a pallet, or do they have to use a separate elevator? How good is the traffic manager? Your machine could do 100 miles an hour, but if the traffic manager is not good, it doesn't matter of the speed because it's just inefficient when it gets to a junction. And we feel that we're a very rounded company in all those aspects, that we actually tick all the boxes and not some of them. And it's a big aspect that you'll go to the likes of Logimat and you'll see all these businesses and they don't have a WCS, or it doesn't change level, or there's certain aspects, but on a piece of paper, like if you walk into a car showroom, it'll lift 1.5 tons, it'll travel at 1.8 meters per second, and it's the same cubic squareness of a machine. I think it can be very misinterpreted because they all look the same, but the functionality, the software behind it, the user interface and how to function this, because it is a pretty new technology, it is evolving, and we have been around now for quite a while, 9 years, and I think we're at the forefront of that, and we've been pushing our software sector, which we believe puts us up there.
I understand from the way you describe it that you could create a pretty much customized or bespoke solution for a customer. Does customization limit scalability at all, or does the sort of modularity of what you're offering mean that you can grow and grow an existing installation?
Yeah, so for us, the customizations it could be very small. It could be going from a pallet to a whiskey barrel. So we're just making an attachment on our taxi to lift a barrel instead of a pallet, or a cask, as it would be known in the industry. Mm-hmm. But for us, it can be a lot of software features. And in the software side, yeah, it can take time to develop and test and put it to market. On mechanical, I would say I've been doing this, or we're 80 years in doing this as a family business, and we can turn that around pretty quick. As I say, it can be anything from a maintenance basket to a fire retardant charging box to just simple things that the client requires, especially around conveyors and door thresholds and loading systems, whether you want to put 2 pallets on at the same time or you only want to load with a powered pallet truck or whatever the case may be. It does take up time, but for us, it's the difference in keeping your client with their requirements. And that's what we're all about.
Now, you're a lot smarter and better connected than I am, Sam. In 2017, I didn't think I'd heard of AI outside of science fiction scenarios, but I imagine you've always had your finger on the pulse when it comes to these sorts of trends. How much of a part is AI playing in Moffett Automation and what you can bring to your customers?
Yeah, look at it. I think it's going to be, it's developing very strong at the moment. Looking at the trends within the client and the data that we've now been building in different sectors, and now we've been fit to bring trends into the logistics of the warehouse to drive efficiencies, knowing, time, dates, and the metrics of how their warehouse is functioning. We can do a lot of forecasting in there, drive efficiencies, and make that warehouse a real driver for the business. And AI is definitely accelerating that for us. And our whole team is very invested in it. And we're really looking forward to seeing what it can do for us and our clients. Yeah, it's something that my CTO, Jonas, is very invested in at the moment.
I've as I said, visited many warehouses. Many of the latest, most automated modern warehouses still have a reasonable amount of personnel working in them. Some may say too many. Can you see the warehouse of the future where there is zero personnel? I know we have these dark warehouses, but they have their limitations. Where are the areas where we can still maybe make some improvements there?
Yeah, that's a very good question again. I would say if you're doing full pallet movements, so full dispersion of pallets with no picking, I think we're seeing a lights out warehouse very soon. The lights out on a picking based system, there is challenges behind it. I think one of the biggest challenges is taking the cellophane off the pallet and making sure that the pallet is somewhat still stable, or you're breaking it down. And that element alone of detying the cellophane off the pallet and not ripping the product behind it and automating that process could be one of the bigger challenges. I would reiterate that full pallet movement warehouses I see in the next 18 months to 2 years, lights out warehouses for the likes of cold storage where you're not maybe doing as much picking and stuff. That's very close.
And also on the subject of labour, but this time focus more on your own business. How are you finding it now establishing and growing a tech company when it comes to attracting talent, and what are the sort of the leadership principles that you bring to the business that helps to attract that talent?
Yeah, look, I think one of my first big things is honesty. We need to be very clear with a client. I don't believe that I'm a salesman when I'm talking to a client. If we're not right for the client, we get that out of the way very quickly and say, this solution isn't actually for you. And I do believe that'll stand to you talking to your next client or the next client, that even the person you spoke to 2 years ago would say, if it's right for you, he's not going to mess you around. So that's one of the biggest things that I believe in. We're not going to missell somebody. I think that'll always be for you in the long run. But I would say we're a fast-moving, fast-paced company with a disruptive technology. We do offer nice benefits for our staff in the employment. We have an accelerated growth. It's definitely not stagnant. And if you're coming in for an easy time, I don't think it's the right business for you. But, we are moving. It is growing. And we're very excited for the future. And I do think we've got a good team behind us to drive that on. And we are based a little bit in rural Ireland. We're an hour from Dublin, our capital, and we come from an agricultural sector. So we do get a lot of ability within mechanical engineering within Ireland, which is a very big benefit. And we do have a lot of engineering here. So talent is there. The software, not so much, but we are finding that Ireland is a great spot for a lot of our tech people to come and live. We are in the right country to enhance a lot of these people to move to Ireland. So it's definitely working for us at the moment, and we're excited to see where it goes. I do see us, probably breaching out into other territories to support more local installations and things, say in the US or Eastern Europe as well. But that's all to come.
Does the software aspect, the software development side, always need to be developed on site, or is quite a lot of that remote working?
No, we have a lot of our staff remote working on that. It's a very advanced software in my eyes. We're not stuck in PLCs. It's more modern code, and we can have a lot of our staff working remotely. They're all still based in Ireland. They all still work for us. We do not subcontract out that work. It's an IP to us, and it's very important. No, they can surely, but there is some of them in our facility, and they do come here once a month regularly.
And for those who do come to the facility, they'll find themselves in what you could say is quite a well-known facility, isn't it? To anyone in the materials handling industry that had visited that part of the world?
The facility was built in 1978, has had many a company through it from the family business, and And the two I mentioned at the start of the podcast, Moffett Mounty and Commonwealth, both started in here. So it's a little bit of an incubator for our businesses, but I'd be hoping to keep this here for the long run and expand here now. We've just submitted planning permission for a Centre of Excellence warehouse with an R&D facility on it to expand further. So it's a nice sized building. We're going to have a demonstration system and an R&D facility to push and see where we can bring the technology and maybe add a new feature or two to our solution.
I never have a conversation, Sam, on logistics business conversations without touching on sustainability. And that's usually a two-part question. First of all, what are you doing within your business to make it more sustainable? And secondly, what is it that your customers can come to you for that will help them make their business more sustainable?
Yeah, look, for us, I think we've done the general solar panels and efficiencies through the factory. For us, a lot of what we do are bringing it to our client, and I'll touch on that in a moment. But for us, it's about densifying our shipment and being green in our travel. So not wasting flights, compacting the containers as much as possible, and the processes within our business. We are quite conscious we're in Ireland. We don't have the most amount of power. You know, we've had some, I wouldn't call them scares, but we've been told to look after it at the best of times, and that's what we have to do in our business. You know, there is some challenges in Ireland with electric, as I just said, and even to bring our service vehicles and stuff at the moment into electric. We don't have the charging facilities here in Ireland for that, but we are trying in our business and learning, and we do have a consultant in at the moment to even bring us on further with that. For our clients, on the other hand, if you take an existing building and you want to double that storage, you don't have to build a new premises, and you can bring that in-house, which again is saving on square footage, new buildings being built, but also you can buy that steel at a decarbonised rate. Now that's up to you. It is a little bit more expensive, but we can offer those solutions. And if you take a fork truck or a VNA system, you're looking at a 10-ton machine lifting a 1-ton pallet. With our technology, it's a 350 kilo machine lifting a 1-ton pallet. So our battery is 10 times less. The machine weighs 20 times less. But also the big thing is a fork truck will spend 60% of its time with no pallet on board. We will be spending 80% of our time with a pallet on board. We're always looking for the backload. We're not taking tea breaks. And that is bringing a lot of energy efficiencies within your own warehouse. Your stock accuracy sitting at 100%. You've no lost product, security and things like that. There's a lot of efficiencies just in your operating system. Yeah. And your carbon footprint and how dense your racking system is also there. So that's just a few things. In cold storage, there's massive energy savings just on that point alone. It's just energy in the operating of your warehouse.
Yes, and these are, of course, benefits that your clients will want to justify and pass on to their customers as well, who are looking to reduce the impact of supply chain. Sam, forgive me again, another two-part question. Can you just share with us, with the listeners, maybe like a standout success story where your solution has significantly transformed to a logistics operation? And the second part of that is, has there been a particular challenge that you're very satisfied the way you've managed to overcome that? Yeah,
look, we've some very nice solutions on the market, and I guess probably I'm going to answer it with two of them, and they're actually both based in the UK. One is a company called A-Safe. They're a polymer bollard manufacturer, and they had it was actually right down to a question I answered earlier. I walked around their facility and understood their business, and they were looking for an automated storage system for a new facility, but it was the other side of a road, and they were putting in a walkway bridge to link the two facilities over this road, and they just wanted a storage system, and they were going to truck all their finished goods over the road and into the storage system. But with this technology, when I walked around, I says, may we get the taxi to drive on this bridge?
I thought you were going to offer to build a bypass. So I'm glad we're going this direction instead.
We utilised the bridge and utilised our technology to store raw material in what was originally going to be a finished goods material warehouse, and we're bringing raw material over the bridge and into the client's manufacturing facility. But also we're taking our raw material vertically on an elevator up and across the road into the storage system, eliminating people on trucks on 3 shifts, moving pallets from one warehouse to the other. That wasn't, that was something that was in my head, and I knew the client quite well, and they put a lot of confidence in us because it was a long time ago and we were pretty new, and we have a very good relationship with that client, and that had its own challenge at the very start. But today they're moving raw material one way and finished product the other, and this is going over public road, and that was definitely one standout for us. The other is the world's first fully automated banana ripening centre in the UK, and we worked with a company, Cross Refrigeration, on that, and the pallets go in as green as grass and they come out yellow, ready to be eaten. And we fully automated the whole process with Cross Refrigeration, who looked after the ripening element. We automated the pallets and created the pallets to be tight together so that the air circulation could get through the handles of the boxes and things. And that was quite a special solution. And we'd done that back in 2020. And yeah, I'd say they're two pretty specialized projects that we've done. And we've done many a bridge linking a production line, maybe in the same building as another. We've done a lot of AGV integration or very high buildings or special software features. But when you ask me what stands out, it's those two. And we've warehouses moving at 400 pallets an hour, which is phenomenally impressive, and things like that. But as a technology, and to go, wow, that's very impressive to see it do more than just storage. That's probably two projects I pick.
Wonderful. Not a day goes by when I don't have a banana, so I'll be thinking of Moffett Automation every time I'm having breakfast. Sam, we're reaching the end of our allotted time, and something I always do with all our guests on Logistics Business Conversations is to ask them to, I'm not going to say predict the future by getting their crystal ball out, but certainly project ahead to give our audience some idea of what you think the warehouse of the future will look like, what the future of logistics are in terms of the trends that are going to shape it. What can you offer into the conversation on that subject?
What's next in logistics? We're asking the experts. In our Crystal Ball segment, industry leaders share their predictions for the future.
Yeah, so we touched on the lights out warehouse technology, and I do think that we are not far away from that in general terms. A lot of predictiveness will come from AI and running the efficiency of that warehouse. But I do think that full pallets will be moving in and coming out pre-packed, ready to go to a client in order, staged within the truck, ready to go out with minimal requirements of staffing. Obviously, it'll bring mechanical elements to the warehouse now instead of forklift operators. So there'll be a lot of upskilling opportunities within the warehouse from a mechanical side. But I think the industry needs to also focus on making sure the redundancies are there, like our technology, to ensure that, the weakest link in the chain does not put that lights out warehouse down. And I can see it coming, that it's there. I think the fear from our clients today is one broken link will put the whole warehouse down, and that has to be proven now over time. And I think you'll see different warehouses doing each stage or one of the stages to see the reliability before everybody puts it together and does turn those lights off. I do see this technology that we have evolving and probably being the key driver of automation for the palletized goods. I think it's been very disruptive, and you have seen a lot of people in the sector. Yeah, I look forward to it, and I'm excited to see it, and I hope we're at the forefront of it. And, I'm always listening, and if people do want to come up with the likes of LogEmat and discuss it with me, I'd be very open. And, I don't have the magic crystal ball, but I have an idea in my head where I'd love to see it going. So, yeah, let's see how we get on.
It's a great time to be involved in the industry, and particularly around the automation side. Thank you very much indeed to Moffett Automation for supporting this edition of Logistics Business Conversations. And thanks to you, the listener, for joining us today. Wherever you get your podcasts from, please subscribe to Logistics Business Conversations to make sure the next edition is delivered straight to you as soon as it's released. Until then, thank you very much, and goodbye from Sam Moffett.
Thank you very much.
And goodbye from me, Peter MacLeod. Goodbye.